He said the following, that now he is a friend. President Lula is now friends with the President of the United States, Donald Trump. Let's see.
And am I friends with Trump now? Now I'm there all the time. He says that we have chemistry, that it was love at first sight.
In another unpredictable twist, the Brazilian president surprised everyone by declaring that he and Donald Trump had love at first sight. The phrase, full of symbolism, reveals a sudden change in attitude, which many interpret as a reaction of fear in the face of American pressure. The gesture of the Brazilian leader reveals an attempt to align himself politically to prevent Brazil from becoming a direct target of the military operations that the United States has been organizing against drug trafficking in the region. With the American Secretary of War, Peter Hegseth, reaffirming that the Southern Command will attack bases and vessels linked to criminal factions throughout the Americas. The current president of Brazil seems to be seeking a diplomatic solution to contain the advance of the Shield of the Americas in national waters.
This thing about saying that organized crime, that the factions in Brazil's case have taken over parts of cities. We have to tell Brazil that the territory of a city, of a neighborhood, belongs to the people, not to organized crime, not to criminal factions, you know? That's what we have to say, and in the world as well.
The narrative of friendship and love between him and Donald Trump is an attempt to soften the impact of the American offensive. Behind the scenes, the meaning is clear. Brazil's presidency fears that the international offensive against organized crime will cross borders and expose internal weaknesses, where Brazil has clearly not been able to undermine the structures of the PCC and the Comando Vermelho. But the new decision from the Shield of the Americas shows that the Southern Command is about to carry out a significant action against the Brazilian cartels. Welcome to Vida no Quartel. The conciliatory statements toward the United States from the Brazilian president don't seem to have any effect in the face of the Southern Command's offensive, which is intensifying attacks against vessels linked to drug trafficking on transnational routes. The use of drones and destroyers confirms that the Shield of the Americas is fully operational and ready to target vessels used by Brazilian factions, making it clear that diplomacy will not be enough to stop the American strategy. The intelligence network set up by Washington around Brazil is robust and demonstrates the seriousness of the offensive. With FBI bases in Paraguay, Argentina, and Ecuador, as well as the presence of the CIA inside the United States Embassy in Venezuela, the data flows in real time. This means that any suspicious movement can be tracked and neutralized with precision, increasing the pressure on factions operating in Brazilian waters. In this scenario, Brazil finds itself facing a strategic dilemma: to align itself more clearly with the United States or to face a military operation on its own that does not recognize borders when the goal is to dismantle organized crime. The stance of the Brazilian president in declaring close ties with Trump reflects a fear that Brazilian factions may be directly attacked by international forces, calling into question Brazil's ability to contain domestic crime, which has been steadily increasing. The presence of the USS Nimitz for 7 days in Rio de Janeiro showed that the United States still relies on the strategic partnership and historic friendship of the Brazilian Navy, which warmly welcomed the American military personnel.
I'm Captain Joseph Furco. I am the commanding officer of the USS Nimitz. It is currently the United States' oldest aircraft carrier, and I am excited to be sharing this ship with the city of Rio de Janeiro. Along the way, we have gone completely around the continent of South America, spending time with our partners and allies, especially our allies here in Brazil. We'll be participating in naval exercises with the Brazilian Navy, where we'll be excited to show our ship in action, including flight operations at sea.
The gesture reinforced interoperability between the forces and showed that, despite political tensions, naval cooperation remained strong. The aircraft carrier, a symbol of United States maritime power, served as a venue for meetings and discussions about joint operations, making it clear that the South Atlantic remains an area of strategic interest for Washington. Before the USS Nimitz departed, the Brazilian Navy made a point of inviting the Army commander, General Tomás Paiva, to come aboard and participate in meetings about anti-submarine warfare, interoperability, and military cooperation. This initiative demonstrated the intention to broaden the dialogue between the Brazilian armed forces and the Americans, strengthening integration in combat and defense scenarios. It is worth noting that in Brazil, the warm welcome for the Nimitz was carried out only by the Navy, unlike the stopovers in Chile and Argentina, where the presidents of those countries boarded the ship to welcome the giant of the seas. This highlights different political stances regarding the presence of the U.S. military. Southern Command demonstrates impressive capabilities by coordinating joint operations that range from precision drone strikes to the use of destroyers in maritime interdiction missions. The strategic advance of the Shield of the Americas shows that, in recent decades, Brazilian federal policy has failed to contain the growth of domestic criminal factions, allowing them to expand their reach beyond the borders.
It is estimated that there are around 1,500 to 2,000 criminals in that region who are directly involved with the Red Command.
This reality exposes Brazil's vulnerability in the face of an international offensive that has already proven effective in dismantling transnational criminal networks. The change in the Brazilian president's stance in his speeches, seeking closer ties with Donald Trump, reflects a fear that the country will be directly impacted by this new phase of the war against organized crime. While other countries in the region celebrate the partnership with the United States as an opportunity to strengthen their defenses and reduce the influence of the factions, Brazil insists on treating the advance of the Shield of the Americas as a violation of sovereignty. Federal Guardeiro. This resistance contrasts with the practical reality, which is the inability to single-handedly contain the power of criminal organizations. The question that remains is why Brazil does not accept this support when Paraguay, Ecuador, Argentina, and Bolivia already recognize the benefits of strategic cooperation. In these nations, the U.S. presence has undermined the structures of drug trafficking and weakened organized crime, bringing concrete results. However, only in Brazil do critics insist on seeing the partnership as a threat, ignoring that the real violation of sovereignty occurs when criminal gangs dictate the rules in national territories. Leave a comment below if you think a partnership with the United States in fighting organized crime would be progress or a setback. Remember that to this day, no internal policy has managed to consistently curb the growth of crime in Brazil. Here on Vida No Quartel, you stay up to date with everything happening in the military world. Leave your like, subscribe, and don't forget to watch the video about the power struggle happening behind the scenes between the United States and China. Forward fighters, see you next time.